What up, y'all? It is Alex, and today we are breaking down Blue Clouds by Modeselektor today. This is probably my favorite track by Modeselektor, which is one of my favorite electronic groups. Yeah, I'm excited to do this. We're going to start off right away with the kick going, a kick and offbeat, and then maybe the small 2 and 4. I'm not exactly positive about this, but let's just listen for this first loop. Cool. So the reason why I'm not 100% sure is because we definitely hear a kick hitting on every beat going, Then we get that offbeat. It's a very kind of rough coarse sounding offbeat. And then I'm just putting something here on the 2 and the 4 because you'll notice each 2 and 4 sounds a little different. Sounds a little lower, but I don't think the kick is being transposed. So yeah. So essentially we have a nice little drum intro. Then we have the chord sequence come in. And this is super important because this it's going to be an 8-bar loop. So you get 4 bars of the first chord, 2 of the second, 2 of the latter. And basically it's really important because this chord progression is going to be prominent throughout the entire track. If not through the chords, through the bass notes. So yeah, this is really setting the foundation for what's to come. And so we have this go on 8 bars, then we're going to have it double for another 8 bars. And notice there's always these little drum fills. I think it looks like it happens, we have one here. Yeah, I didn't insert it in, but it would be something like this. Let's just listen to that as a group and just keep note for those drum fills because I know it's a little thing, but I feel like it really does add a little bit of nice variety to everything. All right, we get it again here. Okay, so now we're really gonna we basically just had a nice intro. We're introducing some big ideas via the chords, and now we're going to get the full-on, we're going to get a lot more power because we're going to get the introduction of a bass line. We're going to get that snare that's happening on halftime. We'll talk about that in a second. And let's just listen. We now have the big kick, which I probably could have actually just kept up here because I think this is the same kick as over here, except this kick is just high pass, so you don't get the low end. But okay, here we go. Yeah, I love that melody. It's so simple, but it's so, I don't know, it has so much to say emotionally, I feel. But okay, so basically, like I said, we get the big kick, we get the bass. We also have this weird sound. I'm calling it a weird sound because I'm not exactly sure what it is. It's but it's kind of going do 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 do. Here, let's just listen again. It's around the tone of and it's kind of just this whoa, 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 whoa. It's almost like a drone with a little bit of rhythm in there. I guess if you really wanted to go for it, maybe you could have a synth with some medium attack on it or something with some reverb, maybe a smoother oscillator to start with. Maybe you could kind of get something there and then kind of just rhythmically play a single note along with the track, even though I do think it hits different notes later. But okay, we have that sound though. And then the snare halftime. So halftime is basically like this track's 156 beats per minute. So if you were going to put a snare on the 2 and the 4, that's when it'd be going 1, 2, 3, 4. But in this case, the snare is hitting on the 3. And so it's sort of like the snare is hitting as if the track was 1/2 of 156. And so I think that would be a 78. Yes. So that would be like if the BPM was 78. So the snare is kind of playing in halftime, because if you were to count the BPM with the snare, you'd be going 1, 2, 3, 4, rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Because the rest of the track is moving pretty quickly, but that snare is not. So that's kind of like a fun way you can play with tempos. And honestly, that might not be the most technically accurate description of what halftime is, but go ahead and Google it if you're curious for more. But yeah, if you want to like try and sometimes give your track a different feel tempo wise, then you can have your main percussion, or you can have like your kick going at 120, for example, and then you can try and throw the snare on the 3 and just see how that works out for you. It depends, because you could probably still have it on the 3 and have the track really feel like it's at 120. Kind of like, here, let's listen to this track again. Like, honestly, this track still does feel like it's at 156 to me, even though that snare's hitting on the 3. So maybe this section isn't technically even in halftime. But, if you did change up some of the kick pattern, then maybe you could make it feel like that. But whatever. The snare's hitting on the 3. I'm not claiming to be a music theory expert here. I'm mostly just walking us through macro arrangement. / there's my cop out. Okay, so we have that groove set in, and then we're going to have the twinkle melody come into the game. And I just love this melody, and nothing too crazy so far, right? You can see how we're like keeping interest in the track. We had our drums, then we have the foundation with the chords, then we go on full groove, then we do full groove adding the melody, and then right afterwards we're going to do like another like build up section, which is just going to be a stripped down version of this prior section. So we're going to drop the bass out, take out the bass of the kick as well. I made this part pink because remember how we have this thing over here? That thing I described earlier where it sounds like maybe you could have like that slower attack and then some reverb or something. So now, and this is why I'm really not quite sure what this is. It might be a sample, because here you hear it drop down. I'm assuming it's the same line, by the way. This part might be a different track than this part, but I'm just grouping them together for the sake of this breakdown. That's what this is here. And so we've never had that sound before, so that's also coming into play here. By having that change, it just adds some variation for what we're listening to. Some really cool drum fills here, like right at the end. Just sounds really good. It looks like we kind of stripped it away. Oh, and it also sounds like we have this little, I hear this woo. I don't know what that is. Maybe some sort of subnote. You hear that? If you don't have headphones or speakers, you might not hear that. And actually, let me test something really quickly. Okay, yeah. No worries. Okay, so we're going to keep going into this new section. Okay, the reason why I made this section pink is because to me it almost felt like an entirely new section. But the thing is that it's still using that same chord progression, or at least the same root notes as we've had earlier. So that's why when I said this introduction to chord progression is so important, because we're going to get this pink section and this orange section here, which sound, at least to me, they sound quite different when I'm listening to it, just like on headphones or, not looking at an Ableton breakdown of it. But they're still working on the same bass root notes. So yeah, so I found that kind of interesting. And so basically once we shift into this section of this section, we're going to take the priority off of the chords. We're still keeping that bass line, like I said, but now we're going to emphasize on this like walk down thing. So let me describe that in a second. So the walk down is this do 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 do. I can't go that low. Do do do. There you go. So you have the walking down, very simple. It's kind of just emphasizing that chord progression again, as you can see. And then we have the response with the crazy sound. Wearing it. The crazy sound is also descending with the chord progression too. So again, this chord progression is really really important, and really, like, I feel like so much is framed around it. But okay, so we're gonna have, we still have this weird sample thing going on. And so now the reason we were able to go from this section to this section is really because we kind of changed up like the main like melodies that we're focusing on. Because over here we're focused mostly on the twinkle melody, but now our attention, the track gets stripped back a bit, the chords are brought out, it's a little bit more of like a drier mix versus, over here. It's a little bit of drier mix. Now we're focusing on the walk down, the crazy sound. Then after 16 bars of that, we're going to insert this 16th note hat, and then insert the twinkle melody again. So now we're getting the twinkle melody on top of the walk down and crazy sound, a combination we've never had before. And I like how this 16th note hat, let's listen for it real quick. I feel like that kind of also makes the snare stand out again, because now whenever the snare hits, it signifies the end of the 16th note hat. Because when you hear that 16th note, it might make you feel a little sped up. Like if that stayed throughout, it would maybe make the whole loop feel a lot faster, but then that snare whaps in, it stops. All right, let's just keep listening. Okay, so this orange section is interesting because, like I said, to me it's worthy of its own section, because at least I'm judging this from the first, like how I would just listen to this track again before I broke it down. Because when I would just listen to it, this seemed like its own section here. This seemed pretty different as well. And so did this. So yeah, and so that's why I'm marking it as orange, because to me it almost feels like we're doing an A, a B, and a C, just like that. And I feel I'd have to double check, but I think a lot of the techno tracks we've broken down don't go A, B, C. I think that's not too common. And you could say this isn't A, B, C, because again, we're still following that same chord progression if you want, but to me it feels, each section feels pretty significantly different. And so at least when I was like listening to it, it seemed different enough that for me, that's how I'm going to do it. So this is a strange thing. We have an introduction of a second bass line, and cool enough though, it's just still emphasizing those root notes. That's just a meh, 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 meh. And now it's still call and responding with that crazy sound. I say it's weird to have two bass lines because, again, at least a lot in the music we've broken down, there's usually just one bass line. And eventually I'm pretty sure this one actually plays with the other bass line, which is totally weird. But it seems to work, and we'll talk about that later. But okay. So now, again, we're keeping things interesting. We have a new combination of sounds. We've never had this bass line 2 in the game at all before. So we're just going to play this section twice, and then we're going to kind of go back towards what I feel is like an A section. This track is so dope. I really love it. So, whoa. Got thrown off a little bit. C section, back into A section. So it's kind of, I think it feels like an A again because maybe this twinkle melody is being focused. Let's listen for a second. Yeah, I think it just kind of reminds me of this. It feels kind of more like the A. And the thing is, we do still have that bass line in, though, the second bass line. So it's still a different combination than we've ever had before. And we're going to do, it looks like it's very common in this track to do, the 8 bars and then the 8 bar loop twice and then add from there. So we do the 8 bar loop twice. And now we're getting this bigger version of the twinkly melody. I don't know if it's just a modulation of the original synth. I don't know if this is still in or not. In the actual track, but I'm just going to keep it there because I don't think it really matters. The important thing to note is that we are now doing kind of the same melody, but just more amped up. And so that makes, I feel like that really helps drill it home because, it's simple, it's easy to memorize, and now we're just getting it again with more vibe. And to me, it just helps it stick in the head. And we've talked about this a lot, but it's really cool sometimes before transitions to really strip out a lot of stuff before you just slam everything back in. And I think like this drum fill right here, right, like the way it just sets up this huge blast is amazing. It's so good. Let's listen to this last 4 bars. I love it. I really do. Okay, so basically now we are going kind of back into like this A section over here, except we're way more full on. So now we have the bigger melody happening immediately. We have the crazy sound. We have the bass. We have that weird sound. We have the chords. We've got the sub bass too. So we have like 2 bass lines now. quick. It sounds like we might also still have the walk down. Where's the walk down? Oh, yeah, I think we have the walk down too. Oh, and the reason why I put offbeat emphasis, let's hear it. Actually, ignore the offbeat emphasis. I don't know if that actually means anything. But okay, so we're back into the full-on section. We've got so many things happening. Like, if we just look at a macro sense, we've got like two basses. The reason why I think there's two basses because normally usually you're not getting two bass lines at once. But if I put on this auto filter, this is what I did earlier. Again, if you need headphones or speakers that have sub to hear this, but I was just comparing this section here to this section here, which is kind of like the first groove. So in the first groove, I feel like we hear just the one sub bass. But here I feel like you can still feel it getting bigger at these moments. Yeah, especially here, you can like hear it drop out. So I'm pretty sure both bass lines are in, which is weird, but whatever, it's working. Maybe they just used a lot of sidechain or something. But okay, and actually they're also the same note. Like I think these are playing the same notes, so even though it's two different bass lines, there might not be so much interference. Let me make sure. I want to make sure I'm not telling you all the wrong stuff. Yeah, I mean, like always, I'm almost never like 1000% positive of how it was constructed, but that seems to be pretty good to me. It seems like you are having both bass lines happening. So, okay. Now we're basically just gonna do once again what we've been doing. We're gonna do that for 16 bars, then 16 more bars. And then let's keep listening. Dope. So then we just get a nice drum outro. Now, let me close the window. I know there's a lawnmower outside. Okay, the window's opening up automatically, so we're just going to deal with it. This isn't my house. I don't know how it works. But basically, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to Patreon, and definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tell a friend. That would be awesome. Help spread the word. Also, I'm going to mention a couple other things. Well, first, I know I went a little bit out of order. The window threw me off. But I'll just do a quick recap of what just happened. we had a drum intro. We had an introduction of chords, which like sets the tone for what the track's going to be. We had a groove that kept emphasizing those chords. Then we brought in a melody. Then we dropped out our sub. So we're kind of continuing this whole A section here, which is kind of this first section. Then we switched it up by dropping out the chords, having a more dry mix, and emphasizing the walk down and the crazy sound call and response melody. So it's kind of like our B section. Then we went into a C section where we then emphasize this new bass line. Then we go back to an A, but then we make the A, but the A is different because now we have the second bass line in, and then it keeps getting exciting by emphasizing, by like expounding on this primary melody, the twinkle melody here. And then we just get this big section with so many things going on, a huge A section, a little breakdown, then we just do a huge A section again, and then drum outro. That's like the main way to think of this track. So, you know, if you have a nice chord progression and bass line, maybe what you could do is come up with a lot of different melodic things that work well with it. So that's kind of what happened here. This whole track is really based on this chord progression and bass line. And then if you have enough and you're, you know, good with your arrangement, you can make it sound, you can just give yourself dramatically different examples, or dramatic sections that sound dramatically different, even though they're also like based on the same principal loop. Because I mean, it sounds like here, maybe if you were produced, like maybe when they produce it, I don't really know their production that well. By the way, if y'all do, please comment some links or something below, in terms of like their process and all that. That'd be cool to see. It sounds like here you have so many of those elements happening, so maybe like you could build up this loop and then make the song from this huge loop. But yeah, another thing I want to point out is the chords. I think it's just a fun little thing. Let's listen again. Yeah, I love how at the end of this progression, woo, like maybe you just had the pitch knob and they just pitched it up real quick. Woo, just a nice way to add a little life to your chord progression. But yeah, great track. Love it. Favorite Modeselektor track. I think it's my favorite Modeselektor track. It's the one I've probably listened to the most, at least. But yeah, thanks for watching. Sorry for the lawnmower. Check out the Patreon. Yeah, bye.